Yo, what is going on, everybody? I am Vinnie Potestivo. You are listening to I Have a Podcast. And on this episode, we are continuing our conversation with Dave Noll, executive producer extraordinaire, an amazing creative. And we're actually going to reveal a lot more in this episode about the many layers to Dave Noll. Dave, what an awesome ruling that was on how to pitch and get projects just in front of media executives. Thank you for that last episode.
Thank you so much.
Is it fun to share those like war stories, so to speak, you know, where you're in the battlegrounds of literally how to start a conversation about an important topic?
It must have been pandemic related, but I had a moment at the beginning of 2020, the very beginning, where I was like, I just want to share all of this. And if someone can learn anything from any of it, that would be amazing. And so that's why I'm on LinkedIn all the time now.
That's awesome.
Posting about creating content, selling content, you know, creating an enormous hit show. For some reason, I just want to share all these things.
So we're realizing how dynamic, you know, being a creative in this TV industry is from a storytelling perspective, from the characters we choose, from the way we're structuring the story, from the bookends of the series, of the season. One of the ways I hear you talk about TV, when you talk about making sure people experience the story, it comes down to format. And I think format and story together, it's a toy, it's a tool, it's a guaranteed sort of very unique experience, you know, that I can have that could disrupt the normal conversation and energy from the larger, you know, goal at hand of the series, and let you playfully or meaningfully dip into some serious topics that, you know, is secretly, as creators, our way of getting our messages into our content.
I'm obsessed with the format of all of it, meaning, yes, what is the format of a great game show, a Wheel of Fortune, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Deal or No Deal, Survivor, American Idol, but what's the format of Law and Order? What's the format of The Office or Seinfeld? What are the beats that they're secretly or not secretly hitting every single time? What's the format for a Fast and the Furious movie? Why, or a Mission Impossible movie? Or the 7 Harry Potter books? What is she doing every single time that makes that such a unique experience and yet so gloriously familiar? And I would say all of those things. Or what's the format for a wildly popular Instagram post, Instagram profile?
An account, yeah.
What's the format for a wildly popular YouTube page? And all of those things, often what you find is extremely popular things, these $100 million properties, those are the types of things I'm looking to create. They have a formula, and you can literally, when you see it, it's amazing. And that's one of the things. I reread the Harry Potter books looking for the formulas, looking for what is her format. It was awesome to do. And I wrote in the books. It's crazy. It's very cool.
And is it pretty clear? Is it like sometimes the formula can be casting, you know? If you look at Fast and Furious, sure. You look at the consistency throughout that franchise, and I think that the casting itself, you know, was part of the success formula. I can see how
I'll tell you the biggest
different formulas. Yeah,
the one that I think is a miracle is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When you watch Black Panther versus the Avengers versus Guardians of the Galaxy versus Shang-Chi, these are really very different movies as you experience them. Black Panther, the experience was so unique. Shang-Chi, the experience, the dragons at the end with the wings and it was so unique. The first Avengers, all of these things, and yet when you really study it and break it down, not only is it so obvious what they're doing, but it's so obvious that, so you take a look at Iron Man and why did they choose Iron Man first and how did they structure that movie? And it was basically, you look at it, it's like, It was kind of a risky choice. Robert Downey Jr. was not the obvious actor for that part at that time. Risky choice. Guy in his, what was he? In his late 30s, mid 30s, yeah. Brunette.
With a rap sheet.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't Hollywood's A-list at that point.
Who else is in that movie? Jeff Bridges, older actor, very well respected. Gwyneth Paltrow, female actress, very well respected. He is a obviously billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, as he says, who in that movie secretly puts on this outfit to fight crime. And when you look at all those beats of that movie, it's a bit comedic. She's in danger at one, like all of the beats of that movie. And then you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
In 1980, so that was 2008. In 1989, is that when it was? Batman came out. Tim Burton's Batman, totally original, totally unique. Had all of those beats, all of them. Michael Keaton wasn't the traditional choice. He was the mid-30s, not the person you would choose. Kind of comedic, brunette, mid-30s actor. Blonde actress, well-respected, Kim Basinger, Oscar nominee, Oscar winner now, Jack Nicholson. So you put these elements in the movie, make sure there's, someone there everybody knows. So Jack Nicholson, Jeff Bridges, I feel very comfortable with this. Batman is a billionaire, playboy, philanthropist who puts on a suit. And
I know Danny DeVito. I know exactly. I'm following you on this.
The only kind of major difference. So like, what is this one big change is that Batman is very brooding, obviously, even in that movie, very brooding. He's so upset that his parents have been killed. By the way, Iron Man's parents also murdered when he was young. But Batman, brooding, dark, blues, blacks, very dark. Iron Man, happiest guy ever. Casinos, bright colors, red, gold. There's a tonal shift. Other than that, very similar movies. And then the Marvel Cinematic Universe not only copied that formula for themselves again and again and again. Thor, Captain America, Black Panther, Captain Marvel. But they did it and they advertised it. They would say, here's the one thing, and it was in all the articles. So they would say, like when Captain America came out, they would say, "Oh, this is like one of our. It's like Iron Man. It's a superhero movie, but it's also a what war was that? It's a war movie. It's an old fashioned, American World War I movie." When Black Panther came out, I thought it was hilarious because it's so obvious they had only had white heroes like that whole time, and now he's not white anymore. But they didn't say that. They said, "Oh, this is like a superhero movie meets James Bond." They kept saying that. And you're like, that's crazy, but okay. When Ant-Man came out, this is a superhero movie meets a heist movie. When Spider-Man came out, this is a superhero movie meets a John Hughes movie. They always had a line that they clearly repeated again and again and again in all these interviews, the director and the producer and the actors. And that gives you that comfort. Oh, I know what this movie is. They have the comfortable beats. In all of those movies, there's always an older, respected actor. Every single one. It's crazy. Annette Bening, Glenn Close, like there's always Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer. There's
Morgan Freeman. There's always, exactly.
There's always an older, respected actor that's crazy famous to people age 50 and up. Always 45, whatever it is. They do this formula, but they all come at it and they say, but here's the one thing. It's a heist movie. So it's not going to be the same thing. It's not a retread. This is a superhero movie meets a heist movie. Iron Man 2, they would say, this is a superhero movie meets a buddy action comedy. Or maybe it was Iron Man 3, one of those. But they always have a line. And that's again, like no matter what you're selling, no matter what you're trying to excel doing, have a simple line. Make people feel very comfortable. I'm a real estate agent and I'm one of the best. Okay, great. But now what's one thing that's completely different that no one has ever seen before? My pictures are only in black and white. That wouldn't make any sense. But I don't know, maybe that's you. You're the brooding hipster real estate agent, whatever it is.
It's a lot to think of. There's a lot of moving pieces, and I see how the formats, again, well, because you want to set expectations, right? You want to set expectations. I think I want to set expectations so that I allow you to exceed them. Like, I want you to think you know what you know, but then when you chime in to see what it is I'm dropping in front of you, I want you to be pleasantly surprised.
It
so
is
what
like,
you're saying here, it gives me enough to know what to expect without, knowing what's going to happen next.
It is like every great talent out there, every great musician. There's almost always, it's like, well, there's a huge level of comfort.
Yeah.
I get what this is. This world, I am very comfortable. It is very successful. But you need that one thing that no one had done before. That people crave both of those things, and they're really different. They want comfort, but they want one thing that's different. And so they crave those things. You have to figure out as a creator, or as someone selling something or whatever, you have to figure out how to explain that in a clear, concise. And it's just, Marvel was one of the best at that ever. Yeah. Right.
But a clear, concise, repeatable way. And I'm thinking about even in podcasts and in some structured podcasts, and there's podcasts. I love podcasting because conversations can be organized by time, by topics, by interest, by people. I try to focus to have conversations that make impact as opposed to fit into a certain structure. I want to create this, not an episode, but I want to create this. And I know that this is way greater than any episode I can ever create. So I don't even try to create the episodes when I'm talking, when I can be present. This is my guilt. I'm like a kid in a candy store right now. This is my guilty hour. I'm having so much fun doing this, but I know that I can't serve dinner in a home renovation show. I can't knock a bedroom down in a dating show. Like in television, the audience is tuning into you because there is a promise and an expectation on a creative, because our time is valuable and important. And if you play any funny tricks with me, I'll never watch your show again. We know this, right? And in podcasting, it's interesting because it's sort of like a Wild West.
Yeah.
Some people have, Joe Rogan. There are some people who have repeat segments that come back that fit nicely. I love having segments in podcasts, mostly for amplification. I find that it's easier for a news platform or a media platform or a blog to pick up a segment from my podcast because it's nice when you spot gold. You and I have spent our career searching. So it's nice when you see it, which is rare and few and far between. But you also want to set up a steady stream of success, a positive experience with creativity. And I think that that's where having a strongly structured segment, and not just, by the way, not just podcasting. I'm thinking just this week alone, Instagram is right now rolling out subscriptions. There's currently 10 influencers in the world right now that have the ability to get paid for recurring content through Instagram natively. So we're not asking them to go anywhere outside of Instagram for content that they're making, in app. So
that's cool.
Listen to our last episode about what you need to have to show up. To be honest, I'll just give you the hint. A tagline, talent. I'll stay with the T's, and then go back and listen to the last episode. What do you think about this, though? Right? Are we onto something here? Like, this is podcasts, are the next TV pilot. So
I am always shocked by. I have a good friend that's an architect, and he pitches his new vision for a building. And then I have a friend that sells boxes for a living. He literally sells boxes for a living. And then I have friends all over this industry, right? Movies, authors, pop stars, songwriters. And at the end of the day, it all comes back to you have to have talent in this thing that you're doing, whether you're writing songs or you're selling boxes, right? There has to be some talent there. You have to be able to have, but now in order to really explode, in order to really take off, you need one thing that's different, one thing to sell, one thing to go out there and say, boom, I'm doing this.
I love that. And when I look at how current creators are producing content now, there's a lot of sort of bulk content happening, which if you come from TV, you're used to shooting non-linearly, in certain hours of time. So I love that we can sort of have a conversation, a sustainable conversation around creativity, about efficiency. Segments, formats really make that process a lot easier.
Yeah. So, I mean, we shoot in one episode of Chopped in a day. America says we shoot 6 in a day, 6 half hours. So that's 3 hours of, high quality content in one day, and it's done. That's another thing you're looking for, that clear path to $100 million or more, but also in the shortest amount of time. So to get that great, people love America Says, we can shoot it just like that. It's that fast. Same thing with, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy and Family Feud.
I grew up watching game shows. Like, if you asked me, what do you want to be when you grew up as a kid? When I was a kid, I wouldn't say a famous or celebrity. I would say I want to be the center square. I had Jim J. Bullock was my idol, and I literally grew up watching game shows. So
my little brother was top center square a couple times on Hollywood Squares, and it was couple of the greatest weeks of my life, because he is an actor and a comedian. That's
awesome. When VH1 brought Hip Hop Squares, I was like, can I just go on set, please? I gotta I just want to touch it. I just want to be there.
I just want to take a picture and sit in the seat
and eat your craft services and say hi to everybody and hair and makeup. It's so true. How do you sit down and create content digitally? So we learned a little bit about how you create, with TV networks and larger clients. You stand out to me on LinkedIn, and I know that's not something that you're just sitting down and bulk writing. So what's your approach to
the similarities,
digitally native creation? Yeah.
The similarities are there in that the biggest thing, among the biggest things, what makes you unique. So again, even on LinkedIn, what I'm doing is what everyone's doing, or a lot of people are doing, which is giving business-related work, tips, sales tips, show business tips, how to get started in show business, all those things. That's what a lot of people are doing on LinkedIn. But then it's what makes you unique. And so I have really focused on the words I focus on are creativity and positivity, because I feel like that's how I've always sold every single show that I've ever sold. Was my goal is some sort of bit of wild creativity that no one's ever said before. And I try to be so positive that it's addictive. I want people to leave the meeting and say, that's one of the smartest things I ever heard, or at least I've never heard that before. Maybe it's crap, but I've never heard it. That's at least a goal. And then the other thing is, even if they're a cynical TV executive who's been around forever, I want them to think to themselves, you know what? I'd like to make a show with Dave Noll. He is fun. He brought joy to that pitch. He brought positive. So my LinkedIn posts are all about creativity and positivity, how to create, how to sell those creations, how to bring those creations to life, and positivity. I probably overdose on positivity because I feel like people need that and they like it.
No, you're absolutely right, by the way. Not about overdosing on positivity, but the need. The need is real. Especially on LinkedIn, I experience creative success and financial success I'm experiencing them being measured the same way. And maybe you might look at some of your biggest Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So like, are some of your biggest financial successes also I bet your financial successes are probably creative successes, but are all of your creative successes financial successes?
Oh my God, no. I mean,
yeah, right?
Most of my creative, everything is failure. It's all, I mean, what Cleve and I do every day.
I'm here for you. I am here for this.
But what Cleve and I do every day is literally fail. That's what we're doing every day. Like if you watched me for a month, you would say, you would be like, how do they do it? They fail every day, like constantly. Passes, no, you're wrong. You know, like you need to think about this. Like degrading emails. It's constant failure. If you look through my folders, I used to print everything out so I would never lose it and put it in these very detailed, highly organized, color coordinated folders. And if you look through those folders, it's show after show after show after show that you've never heard of before because it never made air, or it made air for a season and then got tossed off, or we did a pilot. All I do is fail constantly. And that acceptance it's like literally you have to walk in every day and go, well, that's it. I fail for a living. And then, oh my gosh, every once in a while, something busts through and beats all the odds. I say any success in television especially is a series of miracles. There's just, you need at least 5 of them or 7 or whatever it is to get you to success. On LinkedIn, I kind of feel the same way, meaning I'm going to keep posting and I'm going to keep trying to put stuff out there. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to say is garbage. I love when, like, my youngest daughter, Rebecca, I have 3 daughters. They're amazing. Mm-hmm. My youngest daughter, Rebecca, is so great for social media because she loves the negativity of it. She thinks it's hilarious when people say mean things to me. So when I started, and sometimes people would say mean things, I took it seriously. And one day I read something. She's like, why are you upset? And I read it to her. And she laughed. Like, she was basically like, that means you're blowing up, right? Like, if that's so funny, it's awesome. So the other day I was like, oh, take a look at this. You know, this is a post that's been seen by, I forget what it was, but it was a lot. It was like 40,000 people saw this post, 40,000 views, you know, and look at this. I got 1,000 likes. I'm so happy. And she starts laughing. And I was like, why are you laughing at me? What? And she's like, that means basically 19,000 people people didn't like it. She was like, it's so great if you think of it that way. 19,000 people were like, who's this idiot? Nah, this is useless. It's a waste of my time. It's so funny.
But for the people who see your past work or whatever, for whatever reason they relate, they connect with you. You know, you're putting it out there, and I love, you know, LinkedIn for creatives is exciting for me because unlike Instagram, for example, where if you were to look up hashtag video, that might have 36 million, you know, pieces of content organized under one hashtag video on Instagram. On LinkedIn, if you search for hashtag video, you'll get 100,000 people who are subscribed to the video hashtag.
I love that.
Like the hashtag strategy is just so different that it really, you don't have to post every single day on, first off, you're not supposed to, I mean, you can do whatever you want, and everything works differently for different people, but the recommendation from LinkedIn is to post once a day. And really kind of how that works is they imagine that what you're going to say is so important that they'll give it to a certain percentage of your audience. If that percentage does well, and they start sharing or commenting underneath in the threads, that's the likes don't really have an impact because a like is kind of like a fake action. Let's say words are real action. Conversation, you know, is real action. They're trying to drive conversation so that something happens. Actually, LinkedIn social audio events that are live right now on LinkedIn can't be recorded and shared afterwards because they want people in the room. They want the magic to happen before they become just another media platform to hold all your poorly worded coaching videos and advice videos that you charge, all that sector of content.
That makes complete sense, because when I do a new post, it takes a couple hours, but I can tell almost very quickly. And you're right, it's not by the likes; it's about how many people have commented to me.
It's all about engagement in that thread conversation.
And are we starting a conversation? Absolutely.
And that's the best part. And also, I think that's why surveys work so well on LinkedIn, which is something I stayed away from at first, because I was like, surveys, that's like fake. That's like a fake engagement. I'm not asking you a question, so you have to click on a button and then I get engagement as my user account. Well, LinkedIn doesn't give me credit as a user for a user. Like, that's not how LinkedIn works. Mm-hmm. And what's cool about the surveys, first off, for people like us to know that we can post one survey a day, that's seven surveys a week, and we can have it run for 2 weeks. That's market research for us right there.
Exactly.
I'm looking for characters and loopholes. I'm measuring gains and gaps. I'm figuring out what we're talking about and what we're not. Like, I love that space. That sort of data helps me understand, how to give value, especially on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
Whereas on Instagram, it's a little sexier platform. It's a different need. Mm-hmm. There's sort of a relevance game, popularity game that happens on Instagram that, is important to networks and network executives. Sometimes those numbers come up. So very much playing that game. So for the content creators that are out there, what are your advice? What's your advice on owning IP, on the ownership of intellectual property?
I mean, obviously I come from a place where we don't really own anything, because that
will you explain that for people who don't know?
Well, what happens in television is you pitch an idea, you pitch this show, this concept, and if the network, is going to put a ton of money into it, they own it outright. That doesn't happen around the world, sadly. In Europe, and most everywhere else around the world, the creator still owns a piece of, they have to. It's illegal for them not to. In the United States, because we're a country that's not geared towards the individual, we're geared towards the corporation. So everything I've ever done is tilted towards the corporation. Chopped isn't owned by me, it's owned by Discovery, right? America Says It isn't owned by me, it's owned by Game Show Network and Sony, or some version of that. And so that's different. I would say you need to know the parameters going in. I've been able to do very well, even though that is the case in TV. What I love about social media is that you own it. They don't own it. And there's a lot of discussion about that. But what's cool is you can create a show on YouTube that, if it takes off, you own that content. That's your show. You can create, a podcast and you own that show. That is awesome. That is why it is the Wild West and why it's so potentially valuable. I would highly recommend anyone, if you have any show idea about anything, to prove it. That's the whole goal.
Absolutely. Prove
it in a podcast. Prove it on YouTube.
Yes.
However you can prove it, because you can now. That's how to get the attention of all these people. Cleve and I don't ever take pitches anymore, and we haven't for years and years and years, because we're creating constantly. But when people come to me and they say, I've got this idea for a new game show, I always say, prove it. Just, you can shoot it, do it. People respond to success, so prove it.
Yeah, we've seen documentaries get. Catfish was a documentary. We've seen Morgan Spurlock. We've seen people launch documentaries that get turned into TV shows. Right, exactly.
Dramas from podcasts, like it's people out there doing it and proving it.
I was going to say media networks are onto it. Like there's often been pitches where unscripted goes to Bravo, scripted goes to NBC. Everything stays in the NBC umbrella. There's a digitalleg.com for the podcast to be. So I know TV is looking for ways to touch some of these new, unique sort of pieces of content that traditionally weren't distributed by those networks. Like now, MTV has a podcast division, and networks have, I don't know if A&E has a podcast. I know they have a digital team, but I wonder if they have a solely.
I feel like everybody does now. I feel like everyone has a digital division and a podcast division, or it's
because it's like those are also people to be pitching your show. I mean, anyone on the inside. So like the last show when I was at MTV in 2007, the last show I helped get greenlit was a podcast called Man and Wife, Fat Man Scoop and His Wife. I loved it. And they had this podcast. I thought it was a video podcast. We shot some video. And what happened is we got the project, the .com project sold to .com from a business perspective. And MTV helped build the website, which made the sale of the series that much simpler. And that in 2007 was my first podcast to TV, conversion, which was at the Man and Wife. It was like a Black love line. That was my parting gift to MTV. It was awesome.
That's cool. I mean, that is the forefront.
It being digital. Yeah, that's it. That's like, I know networks, they're slow to, they're risk adverse because they're publicly traded companies and there's lots of politics. I'm curious though, when you're in pitches, when you're talking to TV networks, are they talking about the decentralized video market? Do NFTs come up in your pitches?
No, NFTs do not. Podcasts do. Definitely. There's lots of discussion.
As like a companion series, like they're like, oh, we can have the podcast companion series for this.
Yeah, or is there a podcast that's a hit that's like this, or things like that? Yeah. Clubhouse is now the last couple of months starting to and that's why I would say to people, prove your idea. Just go on Clubhouse. If it's like a talk show, if it's a format in any way, start the show there. Start the show on YouTube. Start it. Start something.
Start it, because also all the buyers, we're all on those platforms. Yeah. There's not, and we're watching things being created. We're quick to jump in if we think we can be a part of the success or something, or if we feel like we can be beneficial to the conversation, that I can give you, advice or make a connection.
Or be that rocket, the person that helps it take it from here to here. It's this growing success. We might be able to explode it.
We've talked a lot about structure and strategies to selling. Do you have a multi-year strategy? Do you believe in? Yeah.
Well, I'm a firm believer in almost nothing amazing can happen in a year. I don't care, all of it.
I like that. I wish someone told me that in the beginning. That makes
if you're writing your first book, you're just not even going to get an agent in the first. You're never going to get it. Almost nothing amazing can happen in a year. But the way I look at it is almost nothing amazing can't happen. Anyone can do almost anything if they focus on it for 10 years. So that's just my belief. I just think if you want to write a book, if you say in the next 10 years, I'm going to study all this, I'm going to try to meet everyone I can. If you want to, be a politician, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to work nonstop. Well, after a year, I think you're probably not going to make it. You're not going to be AOC in a year. I don't think. But if you really focus and you decide, I'm going to pour everything into this for 10 years, I think anyone can do almost anything. Does that mean you can be, the quarterback of the Jets? Yes, maybe. Anybody could, I think. But the quarterback of the Patriots? No, you can't do that. But what I mean is, it would be amazing to, as I say, be a politician. If that's what you think, it would be amazing to to excel in the business world, to be one of the greatest, HR people. I don't know, whatever it is that you want to do. And so that's why I'm constantly thinking in the long term. So yes, we have short-term goals, we're creative. So we need these short-term bullet points in order to get us up in the morning. We have every single day. I'm like, well, what am I doing today? What do I have to do today? What am I doing today to move us forward? But we also have this long-term goal constantly, always.
So when do you reassess? When do you reassess the strategy? When do you deviate from the strategy? And also, when do you heavily rely and trust and lean on it?
It's interesting. I'm working on this book right now. And the publisher, editor, she is like, it's so interesting the way you work because you don't turn in anything unless she's like, it's obviously edited. You've obviously reworked it. You're obviously not, this isn't just a first draft. And I think that's I don't know why that's how I am, but I am constantly reworking everything. A new idea, a deck, a presentation, a pitch, a chapter of the book or a section of the book, constantly reworking it until the moment I can't do it anymore, until the pitch, I have to deliver something. And I think that's just how I am. So I am constantly evaluating what Cleve and I are doing at all times, trying to make sure we're better than everybody else. And I don't know if there's anyone out there in television, if you said who are the greatest unscripted show creators, I don't know if there's anyone out there who would say Cleve and Dave, except for me. But my goal, darn it, every single day is that we're the best in the world. That this idea that we're about to sell is going to be the best one they hear all year. Again, my life is failure, so I'm sure I'm going to fail 999 times out of 1,000. But that's the goal. This is going to be your best pitch meeting of the year, not of the day. Of course, it's going to be the best pitch meeting of the day. Not of the week. It's definitely going to be the best pitch meeting of the week. You're going to have a blast. I'm going to blow your mind with something amazing. But I want you to, at the end of the year, go, of the best pitches, there was that one, where George Clooney came in. He was awesome. There was the one where Beyonce had that show. That was amazing. Oh, you know what else? That Dave Noll and the Cleve Keller show. That was a great pitch. Why didn't we buy that?
Let's get him back in there. And then what happens is they say, let's get him back in their room and see what else he comes up with.
That's exactly what you're hoping. That's what you're hoping for.
So you've been a professional creator creating content as media for television networks and streamers and platforms. But there's this whole, like we said earlier, NFT, there's this whole new category of creativity, this, like I said, decentralized sort of market that is just video appears everywhere now. And you don't even realize you're watching videos anymore, and they're NFTs. Where are you creatively in your process and in the timeline that you're in right now? And I've been in TV for 25 years. The last 5, this advent in media is cool. This reminds me of the late 90s when reality TV was happening. These tools at first were for cable executives and people in the industry, and then quickly became our tools. So what can't you wait to start creating? What's got your interest creatively?
When I'm huge on studying things. So I'm huge on the past, right? I'm studying Barry Diller, or I'm studying Oprah, everything Oprah did, or Brandon Tartikoff, or Walt Disney. Constantly studying.
Great names.
One of the things that you consistently see is being at the forefront of whatever it is. What are you doing that's at the forefront? Riding this wave that is just starting. So you're like, I'm going to get on this wave. This is a brand new wave. I'm going to get on it. And so Cleve and I are constantly talking about that, constantly talking about what's the new thing and what's the new thing that's going to really explode. So the metaverse right now, in my head, I'm just like, I would like to create whatever it is, where we could all go in the metaverse and be there live. I would like to create that version of America's Got Talent or that version of MasterChef.
Oh, cool.
I don't even know what that is.
I know. I'm into it. I'll help you. By the way, I was in one of David Attenborough's projects that he's got for Oculus, which is like the beginning of humanity. And he did this brilliant thing. I don't even know what to call it. Like this is a media event. He did this amazing thing where I was able to understand like the beginning of time, 530 million years later. I mean, I felt like I was going to the planetarium for the first time as like a 7-year-old. Like I could not believe what was around me and how deep it threw me into the story. I was terrified I was going to jump into my television or like step on my dog or something. Like terrified of those, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to see like some eel coming at me. You know. But yeah, awesome. So you just want to throw us in it. Like that's what it is. It's about a deeper experience that we can do.
Yeah, and it drives me crazy because I'm a person who remembers, my memory isn't great. I have 3 kids, so I need a lot of coffee and I don't remember anything. But what I can remember is feelings, right? Yeah. I remember what it felt like to watch Survivor that first season. I remember the feelings and when I felt certain things. And I remember, so it drives me, it is beginning to drive me crazy because the metaverse is out there. Mm-hmm. And I remember the feeling of season 1 of American Idol. And I'm like, this can be done in the metaverse and it can be amazing. What we could do with that set, because you could do anything with backup singers, with the band, mm-hmm. with the judges, what we could do with the judges, and you worked. I mean, we came from the exact same building, nearly floor at the same mm-hmm. time, floors away from each other. What we could do, right, to create the next Kelly Clarkson, et cetera, et cetera. I'm blanking on all their names. Jennifer Hudson, et cetera.
Yeah. Those
inside the metaverse would be insane. It would be something where everyone would be anyone under the age of 40 who considered themselves cool at all would have to go to it.
That's cool.
I don't know. It's that stuff that drives me crazy. I'm like, who do I talk to? Where do I sign up? Let's do this now. I've got it in my head.
We got to get Zuck on the phone and then make it happen. But you're absolutely right. And when I think of your shows, sometimes Chopped can be compared to Jeopardy or The Price is Right. But to be really honest, and with all due respect to those giant shows, those shows didn't change an industry the way that Chopped did. Like being on Jeopardy doesn't give me street cred. Oh, maybe it does in certain circles. Yeah. Being on Chopped, I can increase my prices on my menu. I can tell my kids, you don't know what tastes good. I could go, so it's just, I see what you did there with Chopped. Now, America Says adds to the conversation. And even then I tune into America Says because I'm like, what did America say now? Now what? Now what did we say?
Funny.
What did we say?
People love it.
It's like, I know. It's like literally like I'm hoping for like the Family Feud, when the exit, when there's an X, it means no one thought, what you were thinking of. And I'm like, is that the category? Is America Says all those weird, what do we think? What did they say about? It's just, I love how you give this framework for conversation. You also make it fun for executives who have Michelin stars, to be in a competition show, as well as people who have zero, can't even go grocery shopping. And I fall in that category. So it's not scary. It's just food and a cloche. Is that the word?
Yeah, it's a cloche.
So now I'm just trying to show off that I've listened. I appreciate you so much. We can go. We'll. So the other thing too, I realized over the break is on my podcast, I'm most likely probably going to stick with like the people I know. I think that it's awesome to use a podcast as a way to grow a brand and as a way to introduce to new people. And I know a lot of people are doing it. I just think that, to be honest, I'm so lucky. I'll say this. I'm very lucky to have been dropped into the world that I was dropped into, but I worked so hard to get to call people like you for 25 years to have these relationships that I just feel like my inner circle, I want to use this podcast to keep sharing the stories that help shape me that I can actually point back to, as opposed to maybe in the future what I hope can come from this. And that's your promise.
You're doing so many things right. Listening to the episode, like the imagery that you're using, the logo, all of it, like you break in and introduce the next, like all of the things that you're doing are so good. And then the names and someone with your Rolodex, metaphorical Rolodex, should be doing exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I thought long and hard about how to use my Rolodex, especially as I step into this position of education as an advisor where I'd like to be sharing. And to be honest, it's easy for me to invite some of the big stars to my show because I'd rather people watch them than me. So like that's a little bit of nerves, like my first few episodes, like no one's listening to my horrible questions. They're listening to Mandy more eloquently give me sound bites that, like, to be honest, I'm all over the place.
She was amazing. That was a great episode.
I trust her.
Your questions were great. And you're, again, like the skeleton that you're creating, that whole thing, the production that you're creating is fantastic. And
Thank you.
It's so much better than 99%.
Hey, like your book, if it helps one person be a better communicator, have more fun creating,
or just I've seen now, because again, I have a wife and 3 daughters, Christina Milian rom-coms, like 4 of them, like it's great. Yeah. Just listening to that episode was great. It was so much fun for me because I'm so used to her now as the lady in the Christmas, Switch rom-com movie.
What I loved about podcasting, and you're getting to do it in this episode, is actually guesting. I found that by being a guest on a podcast, I feel like I hope I'm becoming a better even podcast host because I'm so much more aware of the power of the guest and how to set those certain, moments up for the aha moments so that you land on the aha moments and that we don't have to write it all out again. But that's trust. And I have trust in this process.
And you're very good at getting people to the aha moments. And that, like, there was a couple times that I started writing things down because what I always do is listen to the episode. Like, I try, if you have it ready before you launch it, I'll listen to it first. And then I post about it the day it launches. And I've already said, here are the highlights. And awesome. I love doing that to get the word out. But I also love doing it for me because I'm like, oh, Vinnie helped me remember that story. And then I said that line. That's great. That was great. And so I now have stuff that I can put in the book or stuff that I can use in the future or stuff that I can just put in that post that you have unearthed for me. So I was trying to do it live every once in a while. I was like, oh, I like it. That's really good.
I know. I see it. I never call away from it because the second, and like you, it's funny because we've been in this industry for so long that people think after a while you don't take notes or something. But we probably never show up to a meeting, even dinner, without a notebook and a pen.
Yes, literally.
Especially watching TV.
I have a whole there's like 20 of these. And every once in a while I go back and leaf through and wait, how did we not sell this show?
It's so brilliant. Crazy. Dave Noll, I want you back. I can't wait to bump into you more on LinkedIn. And we had a fun Grant Cardone moment already.
Wait, how did that happen?
That's fun, right? So LinkedIn Audio Events is live and only 200 people have access to it. So as we're inviting people, there's large influencers and creators that are on LinkedIn in our world that don't have access. And when I realized that, I quickly reached out to a couple of them and said, I'd love, my favorite thing in life is giving creative people tools. Like the fact that there's a new tool on LinkedIn on a platform that's, 15 years old that you trust is built, and a new tool, and you don't have to get in front of the camera for it. Like I love that. Caduce popping up, but it's to your point about being early, being first. It's exciting. You just got to stay in it long enough for people who discovered, audience events, that you've sticking it long enough to be discovered. And that's like, if anything, if we learn anything about being first, it's like you also have to be last. You have to be first in and last seen.
I'm dying to pitch with Cardone. So if you let him know that. All
right, we'll talk.
Because at one point he said, what did he say? Hey,
make me famous, Dave Noll. Yeah, make me a TV star. I heard that was the exact quote.
Well, I have the book right there.
Yeah. It was, I love that. All right, I'll make that connection happen. That's a fun one. And this is just really awesome. I just appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Your energy. What you're doing in social media is amazing.
The challenge, this is, I don't work at a network anymore, and I'm not a manager for talent. So a traditional manager for talent. So I don't get to dive into these types of conversations. And that's why I think I want this to be our space before I start interviewing people that I don't know.
Yeah.
Because this energy that's coming into me is coming in fast, and I'm turning it around live on platforms and putting it into action. So I appreciate you much, and we'll do this again.
Thank you so much for everything. And whatever, just think about Cleve and I, because she was very excited I'm doing this.
Thanks for listening to I Have a Podcast. For more information about today's episode, visit us at ihaveapodcast.com. If you like what you've heard, follow us or subscribe to be notified of our next episode. And we appreciate any kind reviews.